The component that gives the Willys Jeep its true four-wheel drive characteristics is the front axle. So let's completely reassemble and rebuild this Dana 25 using parts from Kaiser Willys. Before we can rebuild, we have to remove all the old bearings and seals. You can never go wrong with a good Timken bearing. One thing I love about Kaiser Willys is they have a great selection of high-quality, new old stock parts. To install these inner axle seals, make sure everything's nice and clean. Stick it in the housing. Then I use one of these inner axle seal install tools to press it into the housing. I like to put a little grease on the seal surface, and if you notice there's a bevel on it, it's angled, and I make sure that's facing outward so that when the axle slides in the tube, it helps it find its way up into the inner surface of the seal, and then that blocks the oil from in the differential area from getting out into the axle tubes. Once your tool is in place, you just put a wrench on this nut. This tool makes it nice because it keeps everything nice and flat as you press it in. Then it's the exact same procedure on the other side. I highly recommend one of these seal install tools because you really can't get a hammer in there. So it's really easy to damage the seal or get it in there crooked. So having one of these inner axle install tools makes this job a breeze. And once you buy it, it's one of those tools you might only use once in a while, but when you do, it makes your life so much easier. Next up, I'm miking the inner pinion shim thickness. So we took out 28 thousandths. I'm going to put 28 thousandths right back in, and we're going to hope that that gets us close on the gear pattern. I'm going to follow that up with our setup race. So that's this inner pinion race. It's the outer race for the inner pinion. It goes down in there, and that allows me to take this in and out easily when we need to adjust the shim thickness. Next step is the outer pinion cup, another beautiful Timken bearing. This one doesn't have any shims behind it, so we can drive that right down in. Now I'm putting a little assembly lube on. This is a test bearing made from my last video, so check that out to see how to make these. You just want some lubrication on the bearing so that you're not putting it in dry. So I make sure I have all my shims in, my test race is in there, everything's lubed up. Got some lube on the other test bearing, and you just slide that all together. Once you get the bearing on there, it should hold everything in place. Then put your oil slinger washer in. And remember, the seal is always the last thing to go in. Now we'll just snug it up and see how the preload feels. Remember, we're looking for that 15 to 20 inch-pounds of resistance. So you can see I'm turning it here with one finger. Not quite enough, so we'll pop it back out, remove a shim, put it back together, and see how it feels. Before we change any bearings or shims, it's arts and crafts time. So we take a little bit of this McDonald's mustard, smear it on the gears, and get an idea of how the two mesh together before we start changing any measurements. When you're setting up used gears, you kind of are trying to just find where they're already kind of worked into. It's hard to get a perfect pattern on a set of gears that are already worn in. So I'm looking at this side, and I have a really good pattern there. It's got good depth, and it's kind of favoring towards the middle of the gear, which is what we're after. But on the back side, it's not too bad, but it's definitely favoring towards the inside. So another thing we're checking is backlash, and so I think we really don't have any backlash with where it's set up right now. So I'm going to add some backlash in there before I change anything else, because I think when we get that sweet spot for backlash, which I'm going to shoot for probably around 8 thousandths of backlash, I think that's going to move this pattern towards the middle. So our preload on the carrier is good, pinion preload's good. I just want to walk this towards the center a little more. If I can get that, I'm happy with this, especially with a set of good used gears like we're dealing with. So far it's looking pretty good. Before I can put the test bearings on the carrier, we got to get the old bearings off. Throughout this process, you'll paint up the gears, check the pattern, take the carrier in and out. Test bearings make this so nice because I had to do this 4 or 5 times to get the backlash and preload just right. Once you have the preload set, you're just moving shims from one side to the other, getting the backlash correct, and making sure your pattern stays good as you make little changes. As you can see here, the test bearings make this job so much easier, as I had to do this several times. When it comes to bearings, you get what you pay for, so it's always best to spring for the Timkins when it comes to the differentials. So Kaiser Willys has the hookup for these beautiful bearings. Now that our test bearings and shims, we're done with all that, we have everything measured out and the pattern looks good. So now it's time to put on the real deal Timken bearing. Once you're happy with everything, press on the new bearings and get that carrier installed for the final assembly. Now that we're done with the pinion depth and the preload, everything's good. We're going to pull the yoke off one more time and put in the real output bearing, shims, and everything. Now remember, the seal is always last, so I'm still going to put the yoke on with the real bearing, check the final preload just in case there's any difference, and then we'll pop it apart one more time, put the seal in, and then this thing's ready for full assembly. Another beautiful Timken bearing. I always put a little lube on them, get that installed. All the test races are out, the shims are in, we have all the new bearings, everything's good. I'm using a test nut on the pinion so that it's not the lock nut, because that's much harder to take on and off. And we're using the beam style torque wrench, and we're looking for, I like to get it right around 15 inch-pounds, 15 to 20, and we're right on the mark. So that means the pinion is done, so all I have to do now is pop the yoke off, put the seal in, and then put the locking nut on the pinion yoke, and then it's ready for the carrier and move on to the next step. So the pinion yoke comes off one more time. I guarantee you by the time you get to this point in this project, you're going to be sick and tired of taking the carrier out, taking the pinion out, but it'll all be worth it. It's a tough job, but you should really only have to do it once in your lifetime unless something breaks. And taking the time, making the setup bearings, and doing it right the first time is going to be well worth the investment. And then next time you go to do an axle, you'll be that much faster. You'll have the tools, you have the setup bearings, and you'll be ready to go. Using the setup tools like the setup nut and the setup bearing makes it so much easier. Also, just simple things like really cleaning out the splines on your yoke. Like this yoke slides on and off without any tools, so you don't need a yoke puller, you don't have to hit it with a hammer. So just taking some care and time and prepping your parts too makes a huge difference, because I've probably had this pinion off 12 and 13 times, something like that. So take the time, It's well worth it. All right, this is an exciting time. We finally get to put the seal in. I like to put a little extra oil on that outer pinion bearing. And then whatever you do, don't forget the oil slinger washer, because anytime you have to take this seal out, it's junk, so you don't want to ruin a perfectly good seal. This is the one I recommend from Kaiser Willys. It's an original Spicer seal. I've used a bunch of different kinds over the years. This is my favorite. You've seen me use it on the 44s. They come packed with grease, and they're a perfect fit every time. They fit the yoke nicely, no problems. No going back now. So I like to put a little thin layer of silicone around the outside of the seal. It's personal preference. I've just found it kind of lubricates the seal going in, and it helps seal up any little imperfections in the housing. It's always handy having some random chunks of steel around. So I use this little guy to kind of spread the load out, because you don't want to bend that outer flange. You simply drive it in until the outer lip is completely flush with the housing. Wipe off the excess goop, and you're done. This is always an exciting moment when you finally get to put the pinion in, or the pinion yoke in, and not have to take it back off again. So take some time, clean all the goop off of everything. You want it to be nice and clean. It's really critical the surface of your flange is free from rust and junk. Make sure it doesn't have a big groove in it. This one has a little wear line, but you can't really feel it with your fingernail. So a little Scotch-Brite on here, shine it up. Make sure the splines are nice and clean. I always take a little bit of silicone and put a thin layer around the inside of the splines, because sometimes oil will walk right out those splines and go past your nut and your washer and cause all sorts of problems. We don't want any leaks after all this work. So then make sure everything's in there good, and you don't have to put any lube on this seal because it's got grease in it already. Just slide it in there. Nice clean, or preferably new washer. And then I like to put anti-seize, the silver goop that gets all over everything. And then I have a brand new stover nut from Kaiser Willys. And this one's going on, and it's staying on, because we know we did our homework. These get tightened extremely tight. I think the torque value is like 180 foot-pounds or something like that. So it's tighter than I'm going to get it with this gun. But we'll do that once it's in the vehicle and it's on the ground. So I'm just snugging it up so it's all in there tight enough for now. Voila. And if everything's correct, your pinion preload shouldn't change, other than the seal might drag a little bit on that, but it shouldn't be much. And this Spicer seal is perfect. Some of them kind of are protruding at the top and they'll actually bind on the yoke, but the Spicer seal is the way to go. Perfect fit every time. As with any project, in my opinion, it comes down to the final details. Are you going to skip those? Are you going to go the whole way through and do it to the best of your ability? And Kaiser Willys helps make that possible, because they have every single part right down to the little finishing touches. So why not make your life easier? Get rid of that rusty hardware. Put in a nice new drain plug. Over the years, the drain plug on the bottom, they're prone to getting hit with rocks and full of, they'll pack the hex full of, or the square full of all sorts of gunk. And same way with the fill plug, they get mangled and rounded over. I'm not painting it before I install it, because the wrench will scratch the paint all up. And if you ever want something that you don't see on the website, just give the guys a call, and Mike and Jason will direct you to the right department and help you get everything you need. I know it looks like I'm making a mess, but this stuff is good. I like it better than Teflon tape. And don't worry, it wipes right off. With that final little vent, I call this a job well done. This thing should be in service for many years, trouble-free, and get that four-wheel drive system on this Willys working top-notch. Thank you to Kaiser Willys for sponsoring this video. Make sure you check out their full product line for Dana 25, 27, 30, and 44. In the last couple videos, you've seen us working on all of them. And they've got the goods, and they can get them to you fast. So stay tuned for the next episode as we install the kingpin bearings, knuckles, axles, and kind of button up this axle and get it ready to go back to South Carolina. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.